Should you rent or should you buy a house? Or maybe just buy a tent? Banks are greedy, but so are landlords. In this video, we'll look at some considerations to take into account whether or not you should buy or you should rent a house. So before you decide to spend your savings, get a dog and get a mortgage chain around your neck, or keep renting, staying up late, drinking margaritas and investing in the stock market. Did I just stereotype renters versus buyers? I think I did. That's terrible. What's up YouTube? My name is Alex. I love personal finances and ways to optimize them, and last year I also bought a house on my own, and I'm also gonna take those into considerations once we go look at whether to rent or to buy a house on your own. So the main purpose of this video is to look at whether you should buy or you should rent, and certain things you should take into considerations. Because let's face it, a house purchase is one of the largest decisions you ever make financially. And also accommodation turning out to be one of the largest expenses during your life. Unless of course you live in a tent, only shop at Gucci clothing stores and dine at Michelin restaurants every night, then you're pretty much screwed in other ways. So my main message is choose wisely, and let's dive into whether or not you should rent or should buy, or just continue as you do, living in your tent all by yourself without any dogs and no Gucci clothes. Okay, so which one is the right one for you? Let's explore the options of renting versus buying, and hopefully we can make all sense of this at the end. So what I have done is I have compiled sort of like a list of pros and cons, first of buying, then afterwards of renting, so you can make somewhat of a wiser choice. So let's just do it and dive in. Let's start with buying first. Numero uno would be that you pay yourself with the mortgage principal paydown. You pretty much have fixed payments for the next 30 years if you set it up as a fixed loan mortgage, which definitely is a good thing to do. You know that after 30 years you have paid down your mortgage and you have no more mortgage left. You have what would be an appreciating asset if you buy in a city or a town where people are moving to and the demand is rising with leverage. You get certain tax benefits out of owning your own property. You could look at it as a tangible investment. Damn. You can pretty much modify and demolish walls when you own your own house, and you can do whatever you want to do. And also a very important one, you become less vulnerable. Let's say you move to another city and the way you get accommodation is through your employer, and then unfortunately you lose that job, then you also lose the accommodation, thereby making you move out of the town, or yeah, I don't know what you would do. Dig a hole and start living in the hole, I don't know. You're pretty much screwed then. The cons of buying your own house would be that it's pretty inflexible, meaning that it's very difficult to get out of your house whenever you have purchased it. It's a very substantial down payment that you have to put down, meaning that it is less affordable for a lot of people. There are certain insurances that you definitely have to have when you own your own house. There is somewhat of an investment opportunity loss, meaning that if you took your down payment, you could have invested it in the stock market at a return of averaged out to, let's say, 7% yearly. You pretty much lose that opportunity, hence it's called an opportunity cost. And one of the bigger minuses is that you take on a mortgage, which pretty much means in old French, a death pledge. So after you paid off your student loans, then you pretty much have to take on more debt. Yuck, that's nasty. You're always worried about broken stuff and home price fluctuations, which directly influence your net worth. It is definitely very time consuming upfront with all the lawyers and the bank meetings and all those signatures you have to scribble under, and signing your left foot and left arm and future kids away. So definitely a very time consuming process. Then another one, if you lose your job, then you could actually also lose your house, which kind of contradicts what I just said in the pros of owning a house, but I hope you get the point. Other items such as boats and Rolexes and awesome cars could definitely go out of your league, because let's just face it, the bank has already loaned you a substantial amount of money and they might not want to loan you anymore. And then lastly, we have that the mortgage payments are generally higher than rents. And of course, last but not least, you have those taxes, which fortunately doesn't apply here in Greenland. Thank you. But all other places around the world, they definitely apply. So check the rules in your country and they might or might not apply. And that pretty much sums up what I have found on the internet via my own experiences and what people have told me about buying, the pros and cons of buying. And let's dive into the rental part of this. We're gonna do it in the same fashion. We're gonna put it up in the pros and cons. Okay, we made it to the rental part. Definitely the pros for renting is that it is very flexible. Usually you can get out with a 3 months notice depending on the contract you signed. I hope you signed a good one. The payments are generally lower with a rental place, some places at least. There's no down payment, so it's a more affordable choice for a lot of people. No mortgage, meaning no death pledge. Thank you. You will definitely be less worried about broken stuff and the home price fluctuations that are in your neighborhood. It is definitely less time consuming because you don't have to do all the bank meetings, all the lawyer meetings, all the back and forward on email. And then also a little, I guess you can say, with the house, the problems are not yours. Meaning that if you destroy something, they will be yours, but the major things such as installations and if the foundation is crackling, that's not your problem. But the cons of renting is definitely that you have no asset or any sort of leverage at all. Your payments are not fixed. They are generally increased each year. In my case, when I lived at a place here, I had a 3% increase each year. So I knew that each year that it will be more and more expensive to live there. With the mortgage, you have a fixed, if you get the fixed rate mortgage, which you should, 30 years, not any legal advice, but just good financial sense. So you know, for the next 30 years, I'm gonna pay this September 2025. I'm gonna pay this amount. And another con, you have no tax deductions. You're more vulnerable if you have a rental place through your employer and you end up getting fired, then you're pretty much out of town, out of business. You can't really modify it as you would like. You can't just go and throw down wall here and put in a new window there because you would like the view on this side of the house and compared to the other side. And certainly, but not least, you know that you will be paying rent forever. It will never stop. You will always have some rent to pay. Unlike the mortgage where when you're done paying it, it's yours. It's not yours if you don't pay your taxes, but it's more yours than if you rent. Clearly that was a lot to take in. I hope you didn't get any confused. And if you're still here, thank you. It has been quite a process. It's been a couple of years from when I started working till I could say that I was a homeowner and signed those fancy papers, and pretty much got my own death pledge around my leg, which I still carry to this day. But I just want to stress that this choice is a very important choice in your life, probably one of the larger financial decisions you will ever make, and the expenses will continue on forever, pretty much. So choose wisely. But the question is, how much do these things actually matter to you? Please let me know. Are you a renter? Are you a buyer? And what are the pros and cons? What do you think?